Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan. My name is Liaquat Zaman. I hope you guys are having a wonderful time. This is my YouTube channel. As you can see, lights on the background, red and blue. If you like them, put in the comments. If you want me to change the color of these lights, put in the comments as well. Anyway, this series is dedicated to covering the text Mukhtasar al-Qudoori. As you guys know, this is a very popular series on my channel. Many of you guys have been asking me to do more, and inshallah I will try to do as much as I can. I have kind of increased the amount of text that we cover. Questions for today: do you have to give zakat on the baby offspring? What if the zakat collector can't find the exact animal to take as zakat? What does he do? Can you give a value of animals as zakat? If a person's animals increase, but a year hasn't passed on the new batch, does he still have to give zakat? What's a self-grazing animal? What's the ikhtilaf in zakat of excess? If a person has to give zakat but loses all of his wealth, what happens? And can a person give zakat in advance? So these are the questions for today for you guys to think about. Let's carry on with the text. Fuslan is the jama of fasil, which means a baby camel. Humlan is the hamil, baby sheep. Ajajil or hamal, ajajil is the jama of ajul, it's the baby cows. Right. Kibar is the jama of kabir, which means an adult. Right, what else is there here? Sin basically means age. Then you got musaddiq, which means the zakat collector. Right, so the musaddiq is the zakat collector. Okay, collector. Afadal is excess, extra. And then qiyam is the jama of qima, which means value. And then you've got the word awamil is the jama of amil, that works. Alufa is the alaf. Okay, there's another word in some texts as well. It says hawamil. Right, so if you got in your text as a hawamil, then it's missing in my text. Hawamil means hamil, animals that carry stuff. Okay, alufa is a animal that's fed, so it's not self-grazing. It's basically like given fodder to feed. And then you've got zakat al-musaddiq. We've done that. Okay, khiyar is the best. Radhala is the opposite, the worst, the lowest. Wasat means the average. And you got nisab, you know that. Istafada means to gain. Istafada from the word faida. Then you've got whole and that. Jins means genus or type. Dhamma yadummu, it means to add. Then you got sa'ima, which means self-grazing. And you got ra'i, which means to basically grazing. Alafaha, it means to give it feed, to feed it. Afu, it means the excess. Halaka means to be destroyed. Saqatat, okay, right. Let's do the bit of a tarkeeb part. So Fuslan, Hamlan, Ajajid, all these are majroor. Zakatun is the ism of Laysa. Okay, then you got in the Abi Hanifata Muhammadin Yakuna Ma'aha Kibarun. Kibar is the ism of Yakunu. Abu Yusufa. So Wahida, Fiha Wahidatun. So Khabar Muqaddam, Wahidatun, Mubtada Muakhar. Then you got Sinnun is the fa'il of Wajaba. توجد فعل مجهول. أخذ المصدق is the فاعل. Yeah. أعلى. Okay, so ورد is not ورد. ورد رد يرد الفضل is مفعول به. Okay, then you got دون, then you got فضل. ويجوز الدفع القيم. دفع is مضاف إليه, becomes the فاعل of يجوز. Then you got zakat is the majroor, awamil ul majroor. Zakatun is the ism of laysa. Musaddiqu is the fa'il of ya'khudhu. خيار المال is the مفعول به. And then you got رذالته يأخذ الوسط is the مفعول به. And then you got من كان له نصاب اسم كان استفاد أثناء الحول جنسه ضم يضم فعل plus فاعل إلى ماله زكى يزكي تزكية. That's to give as zakat. صائمة مبتدأ. And then تكتفي is فعل فاعل بالرأي في أكثر حولها فإن علف يألف نصف الحول that's مفعول فيه أكثر فلا زكاة. والزكاة عند أبي حنيفة وأبي يوسف في النصاب دون العفو. Anyone know why it's دون منصوب? Put in the comments. قال محمد فيهما وإذا هلك المال بعد وجوب الزكاة سقطت. فإن قدم الزكاة is فعل فاعل على الحول المفعول به على الحول وهو مالك للنصاب. مالك is the خبر جازة. Okay, alright, so now there's several masail that we are going to be covering over here. First masala that we have is, what do you do if you have camels that are, or in any case cows or sheep that are babies? Do you have to give zakat on the baby version of the animal or not? So everyone agrees that if you have camels that are adults, or cows that are adults, or goats that are adults, and they reach the nisab, you have to give zakat accordingly. Right, so there's no difference there. The difference actually appears when it comes to if you have baby ones. So if you've got baby camels or cows or goats, right? You know, baby ones, little ones, offspring. Then in this case, there's two scenarios from this. Either they are on their own or they are with adults, right? So everyone agrees that if they are adults with them, then you have to give zakat. But if they are on their own, this is where the ikhtilaf lies, right? So let me zoom this in. So let's say these are little these are probably baby camels, okay? I do apologize for my ancient caveman drawings. But these are, maybe the cavemans were explained in al-Qudoori, who knows? So these are, let's say for example, baby camels. So if they are adults with them, even if there's one adult, then you got to give zakat if the number has reached the nisab. But if there are no adults with them, right, there are only baby ones, Abu Yusuf says you have to give zakat. And Abu Hanifa and Muhammad say no zakat. Right, Abu Hanifa and Muhammad say no zakat on only babies. But if they are babies and an adult, then everyone says you have to give zakat. Okay, so that's basically the ikhtilaf regarding that. So if you look at the text, وَلَيْسَ فِي الْفُصْلَانِ, there is no zakat when it comes to baby camels, baby cows, baby goats, ajajils, cows. Zakatun inda, according to Imam Hanifa and Imam Muhammad, illa an yakuna, unless there is with them kibarun, adults. وقال أبو يوسف, and Imam Abu Yusuf rahimahullah, he says fiha wahidatun, you have to give one of them. So basically, choose one of these, you got to give that. Right? You give one of the baby camels. Remember when we were talking about camels, we said if you have 5, then you have to give a goat. Right, so in this case, he says you basically give one of the babies. That's one. Okay, the first masala is done. Next masala. Now, normally in an Islamic state, the government sends out a zakat collector for animals, for livestock. Right, so this zakat collector is called a musaddiq. He basically goes to the different farms and he keeps a check of how many animals that they have, and then he basically tells them how much they've got to give, and they give it to him, and job's done. So they don't really have to go look for people to give their zakat to if they have livestock. So let's say this guy, he's got camels or cows or goats, whatever, and the zakat collector has calculated his zakat and he said, well, you owe this much zakat. And the problem now is that now imagine there's like 3 types of animals that he can take zakat from, right? Obviously he's going to try to take the ideal one. So, like, let's say, remember the camels one where we said he takes a bint makhad if he has 25 or over. Takes a bint makhad, yeah? That's the ideal. So, but let's say he doesn't have that, but he's got a small and he's got a large. Yeah, so he's got an animal that is smaller than the one that he's supposed to take, and he's got an animal that's larger than the one that he's supposed to take, but he doesn't have the animal that he's supposed to take. Does that make sense? Yeah, so in this case, what does the guy do? So let's, for example, say that the right animal that he's supposed to take is this one, okay? But he doesn't have it. Let's cut that in, so he doesn't have it. And the large one he's got is basically excess because it's more than what he's supposed to take, isn't it? And the small one, so basically what he does is with the large one, he takes the large one and he gives back the excess amount. Or he takes the small one and he adds on top plus some extra money on top, right, to top it up. So let me make this a bit more clear. Let's say, for example, the right one costs £50, right? He's supposed to take the camel which costs £50. Now he doesn't have that, but he does have a camel that costs £70 and he has a smaller camel that costs, let's say, £40. He's supposed to give 50, isn't he? But he doesn't have that. So what he can do is he can give the small one plus £10 on top, or he can give the large one and give back £20, right? So it's basically, he kind of evens it out. So that's what the basically masla is talking about over here. So if you read this, it says, وَمَنْ وَجَبَ, whoever has become necessary upon him, sinnun, a particular age of an animal, فَلَمْ تُوجَد, and it's not found in the who, أَخَذَ الْمُصَدِّقُ, the musaddiq will take أَعْلَى, a higher type, minha, وَرَدَّ الْفَضْلِ, and he gives back the excess, أو أَخَذَ دُونَهَا, or he takes less than it, وَأَخَذَ الْفَضْلِ, and he also takes the excess, right? So if it's small and it's £40, he'll add £10 on top. If it's large, £70, he'll give back £20. See, nice way of explaining it. Now you guys understand. All right, next. Okay, next masla is, let's say the guy wants to give cash instead of giving the animal. Can he do that? Of course he can. Yeah. According to Hanafis, you're allowed to give the value of the animal instead of giving the animal, because maybe you've got an animal, you're really attached to it and you don't want to give the animal, then fine, then you give this, give the value. So وَيَجُوزُ دَفْعُ الْقِيَمِ, it's permissible to give the value in zakat rather than giving the animal, basically. Right, next. Are you guys enjoying this? You guys like, by the way, if you guys want to find more of my courses, go on to my website, uruq.com, right? I'll put the link in the description below. Uruq.com, you can find more of my videos. If you're interested in usul fiqh, if you're interested in advanced usul fiqh, if you're interested in more Qudoori videos, you can find them there, inshallah. وَلَيْسَ فِي الْعَوَامِلِ, and there is not in awamil, working animals, وَالْعَلُوفَ, and animals that are fed, zakatun. Now in some versions it also says hawamil, animals that carry, right? So if you have any type of animal that you use the services of, use to work on the farm, basically, you don't have to give zakat on that, right? So work animals, carrying animals, and animals that are fed, right, that don't graze themselves, then all of these, there is no zakat with regards to this. Okay, and the reason being is because, the whole idea of zakat is wealth that is kept for like increase, and these animals are not really kept for increase, they're kept for, like, we talked about the idea of things that you use for personal use, like weapons, tools, clothing, furniture, and so forth. So these kind of fall under that. All right, next. وَلَا يَأْخُذْ الْمُصَدِّقُ. Okay, let's just make some space here. Now, the musaddiq, the tax collector, he sometimes, like, might just become a bit kind of like crazy and start to take wealth that he's not supposed to take. So there's rules set for him as well. So he says, وَلَا يَأْخُذْ. So imagine this is the zakat collector, ZC you call him. And he's supposed to take a binti makhad, right? So he's supposed to take from this guy a binti makhad, and he's got different quality binti makhad. So he's got binti makhad, the guy has binti makhads, but there's different qualities of them. There's like a really good one, there's like an average one, and there's like a not so good one. Which one does he take? So the rule basically is he takes the average one, right? Not too good, not too bad. The Goldilocks one, basically. Yeah. You guys know the story of Goldilocks. Well, he takes the Goldilocks one. وَلَا يَأْخُذْ الْمُصَدِّقُ. The Musaddiq will not take خِيَارُ الْمَال, the best wealth. وَلَا رَذَالَتَهُ, nor the lowest of wealth. وَيَأْخُذْ الْوَسَطْ مِنْهُ. He takes the average. Yeah. Just like I showed you. Because, you know, he has to take a bint makhat. But if he's got 3 bint makhats, one is a really good one, really expensive. One is a really low quality one. But he's got one average. He takes the average one. Right. Next. Now, this is basically to do with what happens if you gain extra wealth in the middle of the year and a year hasn't gone by on the new wealth. Right. So let me explain this to you guys. So let's say, for example, his year starts in Ramadan the 10th. His Zakat year finishes Ramadan 10th. So 2022, 2021. The guy has basically a certain amount of wealth in, let's say he's got 50 camels in 2021. As the year goes by, obviously, you know, he has more camels, right? And they've increased to 90. So therefore, in the middle of the year, he's actually had an increase of 40. Now, this extra 40, he didn't have it for an entire year. He's had it, let's say, for 6 months, half the year. All right. So this gain that he has got, what happens to the extra 40? Does he have to give zakat on only 50 because he's had it for a year? Or does he have to give a zakat on the entire amount? So the rule basically is whoever gains any stock from the same genus that he has, then he has to add it even if he gained it yesterday. Right? So even if a year hasn't gone by. So if you got that 40, let's say 6 months ago, he's got to give zakat on it. Yeah. Even if he got it yesterday. A year hasn't gone by, doesn't matter. Because it's the same genus, it's, let's say, camels. 50 plus 40 equals 9. Right? This is if it's the same genus. But if it's a different genus, then he doesn't have to give zakat on it. Right? So if it's like 50 camels, but he's got 40, let's just say it's something else. Let's say 20 goats he gained. Someone gave him, let's say, 6 months ago. Then he doesn't have to, he only has to give on 50 camels. He doesn't have to give zakat on the goats until, you know, the year goes by. Okay, so, right. So it's man kana lahu nisabun, whoever has a nisab, fastafada, and he gains fi athna al-hawl, in the middle of the year, or middle of the year, min jinsihi, from its same genus. So he's got, in this case, 40 extra is gained. Dammahu ila malihi, he adds it to his wealth. Wa zakkahu, and he gives zakat of it. That's it. But if it's different, then he doesn't give it. Okay, next. والسائمة, and the self-grazing animal, التي تكتفي, which suffices بالرعي, in grazing في أكثر حولها, for majority of the year. So majority of the year is 6 months. So as long as for more than 6 months the animal grazes on its own, then that's sufficient. Then it's counted as being sa'ima, and hence the rules of zakat will apply. فإن علفها نصف الحول, if he was to feed the animal for half of the year or more, فلا زكاة فيها, then there is no zakat in such an animal. Because now this animal is no longer considered to be a self-grazing animal. Even if it self-grazes for, let's say, 3 or 4 months, doesn't matter. So let me show you this. Let's say, for example, this is the year. And sometimes, I mean, I don't have animals. Maybe you've had animals in the past. Or maybe you know someone who has a farm. And you know how animals have to be fed, and they have large pieces of land, and they usually eat themselves. And sometimes the animal, the farmer might provide, hay or something like that for it to eat. So let's say, for example, this is 6 months. If an animal was to self-graze for more than 6 months, then you have to give it zakat, right? Because now it's kind of like you haven't really done much. You haven't spent much on the animal when it comes to feeding it. But if you were to feed it yourself, then you've spent some. So therefore, it wouldn't be fair to take zakat from you on that. There's no zakat. So if it's fed for majority of the year, no zakat. Simple. Right, so was zakatu, okay, so the next one, was zakatu inda Abi Hanifa. Right, so this is a masala. Let's say there's a guy who's got 40 goats, okay? So when you have 40 goats, you have to give 1 goat as zakat. Simple, right? Now let's say a guy has 80. Remember, the next time you have to give zakat is when your goats reach 120. So if you have 80, you still have to only give 1 goat. Now the rule over here, the question over here is, let's say a person has 80 goats and something happens to 40 of his goats. So let's say the year goes by, 1 year's gone by, he's got 80 goats. He's supposed to give one goat, but half of his goats perish and die. Yeah, just for whatever reason. 40 died. So what does he do in this case, right? So he, according to Abu Hanifa and Abu Yusuf, he still has to give 1 goat because he's still got 40, right? And the issue is, as long as you got 40, you give. But this excess from between 40 to 80, we call this afu. So this excess over here, Imam Muhammad says that basically what you do is you have to half the entire amount. So if you had 80, so if 1 zakat was given for 80, yeah, then if half of them go, therefore the amount you have to give also has to half as well. So Imam Muhammad, looking at it from 1 goat was equal to 80, therefore if you split that in half, 40 is equal to half a goat, right? So he says that if the afu gets destroyed, then you only have to give half. Yeah, if obviously half get destroyed. And if a third got destroyed, then you have to give, 2/3, etc. Yeah, so 80 minus 40 is 40, which is half of 80, right? So if you had, like, let's say 80 goats and, I don't know, well, let's do, should do 100. We need to have a certain number that we can fraction it nicely. But let's say, for example, let's say it was about 90 or 100 and 50 of them got. So then you do it according to that fraction. Yeah. All right. So, was zakat according to Imam Hanifa and Abu Yusuf in nisabi is in the nisab duna al-afu and not the afu. So they say you only have to give zakat on the 40. The extra, there's no zakat in that. Whereas Imam Muhammad, he says no, you have to give zakat in the extra, but technically you only have to give that same zakat which was necessary on 40. Yeah, al-afu. Wa qala Muhammad fihima, you've got to give zakat on both. Right? So how do you understand this? Like the scenario I've explained to you guys. Okay, let's say, for example, like a person has wealth and the wealth perishes, right? Not because he's used it, perishes. So for example, let's say I've got a certain amount of money, my zakat is supposed to be ready to give, and then I'm supposed to give it yesterday, let's say, and today I was going to give it, but someone stole it from me, all of it. Then all my zakat drops. Okay, that's if it was taken. But if I was to use it up, if I went and bought stuff and I've used it, then I still have to give the zakat. So they differentiate between perishing on its own and consuming it. So let's say there's this guy, and this guy has, let's say, £1,000, and the zakat time has come. He's supposed to give £50, and what's basically happened is he's lost all his money now, right? So he lost all of his money and he's got 0 stolen from him. So in this case, no zakat. Yeah, this was not his fault. So إذا هلك المال, when the wealth perishes, بعد وجوب الزكاة, after zakat has become necessary, meaning after the zakat nisab has occurred. سقطت, it drops. Simple as that. Okay, right. Last masala. Can you give zakat in advance? Meaning, can you give zakat a year before, 2 years before, 3 years before? According to Hanafis, you can. So in qaddama az-zakat, if a person was to give in advance, qaddam means to bring forward their zakat al-hawl, over the year, meaning before the year ends, wa huwa malikun, whilst he owns the nisab, then jaza. So let's say this guy, and he wants to give the zakat of 2022, 2023 already. Let's say someone's come to him asking for zakat, and he's thinking, the amount of zakat I'm going to give this year is a small amount, but can I give my next year's zakat and the year after that zakat? Yes, you can give it, right? So you can give all that zakat. But the only thing I would say, so let's say £500, the only thing I would say is just make sure you're giving the right amount of zakat. So in other words, like when 2022 comes and 2023 comes, make sure the amount that you gave, let's say it's 500, is actually the amount that you're supposed to give. If the amount you're supposed to give is actually more than 500, let's say you gain more wealth, then clearly you're going to have to give that excess as well. And there you have it. So you can check out more of my zakat on the zakat crash course here. Over there I've kind of explained things, right? So if you haven't seen the zakat crash course, I'll put the link in the comments below. It's about a 45-minute video. I explain the whole of zakat in today's time, and you can check that out. Right, back to the questions that I asked earlier. Okay, so let's see these questions. So this is just today, a summary of today. Adult camels, you gotta give zakat. Baby camels, Abu Yusuf says if you have only babies, you still gotta give zakat. And the rest of the Hanafi say you only give zakat if there's an adult with them. Worker camels, carrier camels, or carrier animals, fed animals, no zakat. The zakat collector, what does he take? If he can't find the animal to take, he takes the higher one and gives back excess, or he takes the lower one and asks the person to give money on top. If he's got several binti makhad, he takes the average one. Any gain that's occurred in the year, he's got to give zakat of that if it's of the same genus of the type of zakat that he has. Self-grazing for more than 6 months, he's got to give zakat on that. And that's it. Alright, so questions. Do you have to give zakat on the baby offspring? You should know that now. What if the zakat collector can't find the exact animal to take as zakat? What does he do? Can you give the value of animals? If a person's animal increases but a year hasn't passed on the new batch, does he have to give zakat? What's a self-grazing animal? What's the ikhtilaf in zakat of excess? If a person has to give zakat but loses all of his wealth, what happens? And can a person give zakat in advance? Finish, khalas. Now, I don't answer these questions here. I leave that to you guys. You guys try to answer it, put in the comments. If it's wrong, I'll try to, in the comments, correct you guys. But you can watch the video again and you can find the answers, inshallah. It's an open book exam. Jazakumullah khair, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. And thank you very much to all my patrons for supporting my channel. You guys are wonderful people. May Allah bless you immensely. As you guys know, without you, I wouldn't be able to make all these videos with so much consistency. And inshallah, pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me ability to be able to make videos for the entire book and for other books as well. Jazakumullah khair. If any of you guys want to become patrons and help me support my channel, please check out the description below. And thank you to all the support you guys have shown so far. Keep it up, guys. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.